Welcome to Life Change Transformation. This is going to be our second Christmas special in this Christmas season. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas day and had a chance to celebrate the faith piece of your journey through, either if you believe in the birth of Christ. We're going to touch on that here. That's kind of what it is, as well as if you had some family time and hopefully had some great conversations, and I hopefully use some of the tips that we were able to give you prior to just have an amazing, amazing time over the Christmas holiday time season there. Of course, we're running into soon to be the new year. So we're going to talk a bit about a recap of the year and how important it is to recap the year. Of course, I'm Gary Benoit. The co-founder of the Frontline Resiliency Project. I'm an author. I just published a book about a year ago called The Call for Service. I'm here, as always, with my partner in crime, Maeve Langford, who is a transformational life coach. She is doing some amazing things, and just such a blessing for me to know her. And I'm so grateful for this year. And we're going to talk about that for this year and how we can really recap and finish off the year in a way that's super positive, and put you on the right track for the next year.
Great. So yes, and super positive, Gary. In some ways, we'll have things we want to celebrate and people that we're glad we met, like we experience with each other and others in our community. So let's start with that, but know that there are going to be challenges and things as well that we want to be able to acknowledge, and we'll come back around on that. But first of all, to celebrate. So do you have some things you'd like to share that
For
you are
sure.
celebrating this year?
Absolutely. This last year has been one of tremendous internal growth for me.
Okay.
I've had some amazing experiences. We've had some immersion events that really opened my soul, and I was really able to really dive deep into some of the things that I could really work on becoming a better person internally, as well as outwardly. The year has been pretty cool. I mean, it's my last year of being in law enforcement. I get to retire here in a very short period of time, in less than a month. And it's been a year of just reflecting on 25 years of service, 25 years
Yeah.
of being in service to the community, being in service to the people that I work with. And so that's been an interesting journey as well. When I look back at the year, we, really dove into the financial side of piece, the things I think are for when it comes to our what our financial own abundance, like our own personal abundance, as well as helping families like find out how they can be more financially secure. And that's the other part of our business as well, is being that financial educator here in
Yeah.
Alberta and in Saskatchewan. And the year I got to, new ideas were born. This was one of those new ideas. We had no idea where this was going to be at the beginning of the year, right?
Absolutely.
In March of last year, where this year, we just had no idea what this meant. But here we are. And so this is really special. And I'm just so super grateful for all of the opportunity that has come. It hasn't been perfect, nor do I expect it to be 100% perfect, but it's been such a great year to look back on and just say, we've done some things. My family is just really tight, and it's been really nice to see just even a growth together for Colette and I. Our son is 17, he's going to be graduating here soon, and he's got a plan and a vision for where he wants to go. And it's just really special to just look back on the year and see how far we've come. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, very similar. I mean, the podcast is a highlight for sure. And again, when you have it in place, it's hard to believe that, it was barely a concept in March. And here
Mhm.
we are, and I mean, I think we'll have had by the end of the year, maybe 8 episodes out there. So again, really proud of that. And for me, we had a lot, like you say, big family events this year. Our two boys, our twins, finished high school and did really well in their exams, and are now started in third level in the courses of their choices. So again, just joy and celebration for all their growth and our growth as parents. Of course, Andrew and I are now kind of in a new phase. we're kind of in betweeners at the moment. The kids are gone during the week. They're back for the weekends, and our eldest is still commuting from home. But we're in that space between raising a family and suddenly becoming empty nesters. So
Hmm.
again, celebrating the progression of life. It's all very natural in many respects, but grateful for how we're experiencing it. And again, on a personal level, in terms of my health and well-being, I did a 2K swim for the first time
Nice.
ever in my life. And again, it's like you said, the growth in all of it. The growth in our own finances, the growth in we purchased an electric car this year for the first time. And again, that was not an obvious result. There were struggles and mindset and paradigm shifts that needed to happen to create that, but it got done and we got there
Hmm.
and we got it over the line. And again, absolute gratitude as we reflect on all of it at this time of the year.
And that's amazing. And I mean, congratulations on the swim. That is high
Oh,
five. If I could high five you, I would high five you. That's amazing. Congratulations. I mean,
thank-
there's a big thing. There's something that really comes to my mind when we talk about it. And if the listeners are listening, and we're recapping our year very briefly here, how important is it though to really look back on the year and find the wins?
Absolutely.
I th-
I mean, I think the the paradigms, so our normal habitual ways of being and ways of thinking, we have that negativity
mm,
bias in the brain. So we're going to remember what we didn't do or what's not over the line
yes.
yet, or the moments of frustration and disappointment way quicker. They'll automatically come to mind. What won't automatically come to mind is the wins and the
Hmm.
celebrations. And but they're there as well. I mean, it's not that they're not there in equal measure, or even, there might be more of an abundance of good times. But without consciously choosing to kind of look for them and acknowledge them, we'll forget them.
Hmm.
And again, we know in the research that, like, people who are coming from the positive, who are coming from strengths, who are coming from their successes when they're planning their new year or planning a new project, or what, a new phase, whatever it is, that we're going to approach it way more powerfully when we're bringing with us the good and the positive
For sure.
from the past.
Because we tend
So
we tend to have amnesia, right? We get amnesia over the good stuff,
we really do.
right? And
And it's such a sad reality of
isn't
the
it?
human side of our experience, but it's really real.
And it's no, like, I'm no different than anybody else. I'm no better at it either. The only reason why I know what my wins are is we have a calendar that we use a calendar, right? And so on that calendar are a lot of our wins because we've scheduled lots of those things and we've seen them different highlights and stuff that along the way. The other thing that I've done, I'm not 100% great at it either, but I do have a win jar, like it's a little container that I put papers in when I get a little win. And it's not just the big ones. Like, we can celebrate the big ones. Like, for example, my parents just celebrated a 50th wedding anniversary.
No,
And so that's a big number to be
it
married for
really
that long.
is.
And
Yes,
I'm super proud of them. And of course, we celebrate those. We celebrate weddings and anniversaries, and we celebrate birthdays, and we celebrate graduations, and we're really mindful of those really big kind of life changing events because they're very impactful, right? They're very emotionally impactful.
sure.
What we miss a bit sometimes is just those little wins that maybe aren't as emotionally impactful, but maybe more propelling,
Yeah.
right? And what I mean by that is sometimes it's the smallest win that gives you the biggest growth. And
Hmm.
if we had to not tracking that really small one, that's the one that Paradigm's going to say, we're going to forget that one because we don't want that again, right? Because that
Yes,
means something changed, right? And so
absolutely.
that's why we were doing this special. This is why we're doing this in between Christmas and New Year's, is because Christmas is a big thing. Everybody gets together. They're kind of coming into that family gathering time. And I find that after Christmas, there's that you know,
Lol, maybe.
lull, or if you look at, I'm going to compare it to sports. If you look at sports right now, between now after Christmas, or during that time between Christmas and New Year's, they'll count down all of the plays and the 100 best plays and the 100 worst plays. Right? Ultimately, it's good and bad. They show the good, they show the bad. And I find it really curious. Which one are you, like, I ask for the listeners, which one do you watch first? Do you watch the misplays, the 100 misplays of the month? Or do you watch the 100 best plays of the month, right? Of
Mhm.
the year. And so it's interesting because they're counting down, and that's kind of this time now. So that reflection is really big, kind of everywhere at this time of the year. And so sometimes we're so focused on the misplay that we're not right. We're not
We
focused
don't
on
catch the wins.
don't catch the
So
win.
yeah, so I mean, this is not just a end of year practice from what you're saying, and to give our listeners like a takeaway into January 2024 would be to make a decision to be somebody who's capturing the wins. Who, I use a success jar with my clients, and every week we're like, catch those wins. What are you proud of? What's a step you did take? What's something that's going well? And there's always something, in a full spectrum life, even if, things aren't working out in the job, or job's going great and there's a problem at home. There's always something good
Hmm.
someplace. So you want to be able to catch that. And again, that kind of lift to our spirits and putting ourselves on a frequency of things going well,
Hmm.
then we can create more going well in other areas.
Correct. I know we've talked about longings and discontents previously as well, but I'm gonna bring it up here right now because it's a really good point to make too. I think if you're in this moment and you're listening and you're considering your last 12 months and you're recognizing or realizing you've got some longings and some discontents for last year, things that you would love to do differently or change, what advice can you give to someone who's like in that moment going, hey, I have these. Now what do I do with this? Because I've done some things, but this is what I would love to change. Because that happens too at this time of year.
Yeah, so I suppose, I mean, we might talk a little bit more about that in our next episode in
Hmm.
terms of how do you create a great new year. But for somebody who's just feeling the discontents coming up in the moment, I would say pay attention to them. And it's not that we should, try to dismiss them or make them smaller, or try to make them more tolerant in some way or tolerable in some way, but to really say, I really did not like that. And what you and I would say, we might use different language, but that is like a soul signal to you that this is not for you. And it's not about tolerating it or being able to cope with it. It's about changing it. So I would, the discontents, what did they point towards? Like if you could dissolve that discontent, or if you could, move beyond it, or solve it in some way, what would the solution look like?
Hmm.
And know that there has to be a solution. I mean, you might know it immediately, but know that it exists.
Hmm.
And again, we'll give people a bit more to
Hmm.
work with in the next episode. But again, it's really to say those things are pointers and signposts
Yes. Yes,
towards what better looks like for you.
for sure. Yeah, and what comes to mind in that moment for me when you say those things, maybe just jot them down because you don't want to forget about them. Because sometimes we have that. It's like a tap on the shoulder, right? It's like a little tap
Mhm.
on the shoulder. You recognize something. You're like, I didn't really care for that, or that's not what I would love. And then you're like, whatever. And then you kind of dismiss it as kind of, well, it's fine. It's just the way it is. Well, I just got to suck that up. It's just the way it is. Um, in my world, I come from a law enforcement type background. There's lots of things that are cause grief for some people, and people have a lot of things going on in their lives when it comes to what we do. But what I do realize is that, and my experience has been where those moments of tapping guys on the shoulder, they just were quick and easy to dismiss them and just accept it as just being part of life,
Yeah,
right? Instead of going, well, what if it could be different? Instead of asking, well, what if I could be different, right? And we
exactly.
tend to just accept it, and sometimes I think because we've lost a little bit of that ability to dream. Sometimes in as an adult, we get practical, and sometimes that's why reflecting is hard to do sometimes because we've lost a little bit of that idea of, well, if I reflect on something and I think I had a pretty good year, but I found some things I don't really care about the year, well, where do you go with that, right? And so we're going to talk about that, of
Yeah.
course, on the next one. What does that look like to dream again and have the New Year's resolution? Because that's something that also happens this time of year is that thought of how do I make 2024 better? But as we're reflecting on the year, tell me the best highlight, the one highlight, and if you could, repeat that every year, whatever it was, what would be the best thing that happened to you last year?
Well, I mean, there's so much in many respects, but I know the thing I've already made a decision for myself that I want to bring into 2024 is I want to be capable of doing a 2K swim whenever I want to do it. I don't want to feel I have to spend 2 months,
Hmm.
getting up the speed and the practice and the breathing and the technique to be able to do it. So
Awesome.
so for me, that was a highlight of my year, and it's one that I want to be able to repeat again and again and
Okay.
again.
And what book would you recommend someone reading? What was your best favorite? What was your favorite book last year that you read?
I think my favorite book is one that I have been recommending to clients. It's an old book. It's called Treat Yourself to Life by Raymond Charles Barker. And
Okay.
for me, it works really on a practice called affirmative prayer that I teach to my clients, but it really breaks down that process and teaches you how
Cool.
to do it and how to deal with those doubts that come up, and he just keeps saying, you just interrupt them and you just say, no, not going there. I choose to not believe that. I choose to not give that energy. I'm going with the positive and the affirmative and the things that I do want in my life. Brilliant
Awesome.
book.
Awesome.
What about you? Do you have a favorite?
For book, yeah, I was asked that question yesterday. Um, I have three, but I think if I was to pick one of the three, like I mean, we've talked about Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich. Those are the two books that I tend to study. I kind of get into. But one that really stood out to me, if I was to pick one, and I got to thinking about it after I answered this yesterday to some people, was U Squared.
Okay.
Right, and the reason why is that it really talks about how do you exponentially grow, how do you exponentially change, how do you exponentially get the results you want, and it really, it's such a simple read. It's not a very long book, right? It's a kind of it's a quick and easy one, but you can read it multiple times, and I just think it was very instrumental in being able to see some of the opportunity, right? And I think if there's
Sure.
one thing from last year that I can really take is I think that I did very well to see the opportunity that was here. I
Great.
had planned a bunch of stuff, of course. We always do that every year. We plan, and my goal was to be, speaking on a more regular basis. And I didn't really give a lot of form, but I wanted to speak once, twice a month, and I had an idea of what that looked like in my mind. That was either going to be in a group of people on stage, talking to different first responders and different community members and whatever else. That's kind of what I thought. But it didn't happen in the way that way. It gave me an opportunity to. I've been speaking every month, at least 2 to 3 times a month, to different groups of people in presentations, and now they're not. The thing is, with that opportunity coming, because that's been pretty special for me. It's been able to give me the ability to work on that skill because I think it's a skill, right? It really is
Mhm.
to have that ability to talk to people and be on a stage or in front of a group of people and relay a message. And so that has been probably the best two things I think is that the seeing the opportunities that come around and seeing things as the opportunity that they are, even though it wasn't the way I had written it on a piece of
Yes.
paper, right?
Yes.
Like I wrote on a piece of
Yes.
paper, I could look at it and say, well, I didn't meet that mark. I failed that because I didn't do that. But what I did was I did do it in a different way,
In a different way.
right? And it
Yeah.
and it was and it's built me a foundation of the speaking, which has been amazing. And I'm so grateful for every opportunity to do that. And so yeah, that's two greatest things this year has been those two things I think.
Yeah. And I think maybe that brings us into that piece about, how do we deal with the disappointments or, the things, like you said, you could see it as a disappointment that it didn't work out the way you had in your mind or that you intended for it. But there was learning there and there were growth opportunities and there was good that came of it.
Hmm.
So I suppose again for our listeners, inviting everyone as part of the reflection when those negative things kind of bubble up as they will. And again, no problem that they're there. But to be able to say to ourselves, what was the learning in that?
Hmm.
What have I, whether it's a skill or a quality or an insight or an awareness of some kind, but how am I different and better because of having had that experience,
Correct.
and knowing that the good, that that growth has to be in it by spiritual laws, we would say that the seed of good is there. And oftentimes I say in Ireland, there's so many phrases we have in kind of common parlance that really capture truths. And one of those is that every cloud has a silver lining. I don't know if that's something you say in Canada much, but we get a lot of clouds here.
Fair enough.
Um, and and yeah, that awareness that in every cloud there's a silver lining. And of course, it's not always immediately apparent, but
Yes.
again, we know what you focus on expands. And inviting each of you listening to just say, okay, well, what was the nugget in all of that for
Hmm.
me? Or what
Hmm.
was the seed of opportunity? Or what was the silver lining?
Hmm.
Knowing that it has to be there, and having a kind of, if I can't see it immediately, just, I'm open to it revealing itself to me
For
over the
sure.
coming days and weeks.
For sure.
And it will be there for
Yeah.
sure. It will be there.
Yeah, because I mean, we talk about things very linearly, right? We have a conversation. It sounds very linear. You do one thing, the next thing, and then you have your result. But it's important for everybody to understand is that it's never linear. It's never in a straight line. And sometimes it's not as we drew it up, right? And we can have the best laid intention or plan or the best blueprint possible, and then there'll be a change or something will show up in a different way that's similar to, but not the way you expected to get the same
Exactly.
results, right? So, um, yeah, for sure. I think it's also key too when you're reflecting and just looking back and just really sitting with the energy of how good does it feel to achieve your goals? How good does it feel
Hmm.
to feel good, to have a good relationship, or you know you're happy and content in your job, or what is it that feeling? Just really sit with it. That should make you feel warm on the inside, because
Yeah.
that feeling is really key to wanting to duplicate down the road,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, as we're building our vision, and we know I want to feel contentment, I want to feel the success, I want to feel the gratitude, I want to feel the confidence. We can use our past memory to generate that. You and I, we we
Hmm.
we know everything is vibration, so we can use these moments of remembering how it felt on whatever date in December
Hmm.
people are listening to our call, or into the new year, and say, okay, I remember that feeling. I can generate that feeling again, and it supports me again in drawing in those elements of my vision going forward that I want to experience in
Yeah,
2024, that would be of a similar kind of vibration and frequency.
got it. Okay, so we're coming to the end. As always, a few final thoughts, a few things. What's the couple of things we want to send to them out the listeners now to just for them to take away? What do you think?
Well, there's a beautiful Celtic tradition, Gary, from you know, time of old, where so the solstice is kind of the end of the Celtic year and the start of the new year. So if the idea comes from a little bit earlier in the calendar months, but the Celts had this practice whereby there was a reckoning. Actually, sorry, it wasn't around the solstice. It was around Halloween. That's
Mm,
that's why it's a bit earlier than we do now at the year end. But the same idea, where they had what they called a reckoning, and what were the debts that needed to be repaid. So who, whether that's money, whether that's a kindness returned, whether that's you borrowed a book and you need to
hmm.
give it back, or the library, or to a friend, or whatever, but really looking at where is there kind of unfinished business of some kind. And again, if people are listening, and even if it's into the new year when you actually get to listen to the call, but just thinking, where have I unfinished business from
Right,
2023?
right.
And what can I do now to just wrap that up neatly? Like if it was a project that needed to be finished in some way, if it was something that's on my to-do list, but I no longer want it. It doesn't fill me with joy anymore. Things have moved on. Just take it off the to-do list.
Hmm.
It could be something to do with maybe you or I, there are things that need doing, but it isn't us who has to do them. For our listeners as well, maybe a garage needs clearing out, or something was on the list, but you don't have to be the one to do it. Who could you delegate that to?
Got it.
But unmet needs and unfinished business just kind of
Hmm.
saps our energy.
Hmm.
So doing what you can to just tie that all up neatly, like do it, delete it, or delegate it.
Got it. Awesome.
So
That's
yeah.
awesome. I'm just gonna. That's amazing. I think it's awesome. As you guys are reflecting, as you sit down, schedule some time, sit down with yourself, um, and really, for me, it's just really take the time to just be thankful for the last year we had, be excited for the year that's coming, and do some of those things that Maeve just said there that really can conclude or bring to a conclusion a calendar year of growth and life. And then, you know, really consider when you're reflecting, what would you love to do maybe better, or how could you do things differently, or if you have growth options, and that'll be the next time we meet here. We'll be talking about New Year's resolutions. What does it look like to set a goal? How does it work? And how do we achieve success in the next 12 months? The next year at this time, where we're reflecting, we have a bucket full of wins. So that's next time. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for listening. We love connecting with you guys. By all means, connect with us through Spotify. Of course, our contact information is there at the end. If you want to email us or contact us on our social media, you're welcome to do that as well. So I really appreciate y'all. I hope you guys had a great Christmas. Hopefully, this is helpful for the reflection and the recap of the year. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one, which is in a couple of weeks, talking about New Year's resolutions and where we go from here. All right. Thanks, guys.